So you're in love, you've moved in together, maybe planning a wedding, maybe buying a place, and everything is going great. And then one of you says the word prenup. But hold on, prenups, aren't they just those things that billionaires and reality TV stars use? Actually, no, they're super common, and in a lot of cases, it could be a really smart decision. Hi, I'm Hayder, and I like to compress legal information into a digestible format for my Australian audience. And in this video, we're talking about binding financial agreements, what they are, why people get them, the pros and the cons, and how to decide if it's right for you. Let's jump into it. Firstly, what is a binding financial agreement? In Australia, we don't use the term prenup. The legal name is a binding financial agreement, or BFA. It's the same idea though. It's a legal agreement between you and your partner about what happens with your finances if the relationship ends. You don't have to be married to get one done. BFAs can be done before marriage, moving in together, during the relationship, or even after you separate. And it covers things like who keeps what assets, how debts are going to be handled in a relationship, whether anyone will be paying spousal maintenance, ongoing support in the event that you do separate. And no, they're not just for the rich. In fact, they can save any couple a lot of stress down the track. But wait, Hayder, prenups are not binding in Australia. My neighbor told me that they're not worth the paper they're written on. Okay, let's address the elephant in the room. A lot of people say, yeah, but aren't prenups not binding in Australia? The short answer is yes, they are. They're legally enforceable if they're done properly, and that is the key. Sure, you can make any contract in Australia, and if a party is under duress whilst they sign that contract, is that contract going to be binding? No, it's not. And the same thing applies here to prenups. There are strict rules under the Family Law Act to make sure a binding financial agreement holds up. And here's what needs to happen in order to make sure your prenup is compliant. Both parties must receive independent legal advice. That means solicitors from different law firms advising as to whether or not they should sign this agreement. The agreement must be in writing, and it has to be signed by both parties. And the lawyers involved must provide signed certificates confirming that they gave proper legal advice. And if that's all done and the agreement was transparent and no one was pressured into doing it, it's absolutely binding. And again, just like anything in law, there are cases where a prenup can be challenged. But that usually happens only if one person was maybe misled about one person's finances, or they were experiencing a high amount of pressure to sign that agreement. So it's not that prenups are not binding, it's that they need to be done the right way to stay binding. So it's starting to sound a little bit too confusing. Now you might be thinking, why should I even get one in the first place? And there are a few big reasons to go down the path of a prenup. Maybe one person has a lot more assets than the other, like a house, a business, or an inheritance they want to protect. Maybe it's a second marriage and they want to make sure their kids from the first relationship are looked after. Or maybe they just want to be proactive and have clarity around finances, which, let's be honest, is one of the biggest things couples fight about anyway. The truth is, people who get prenups usually communicate better around money. It's not about being scared of breaking up, it's about being clear and fair if the worst case did happen. Alright, so here are some of the pros of getting a prenup. You get to protect what's yours. If you're entering into a relationship with a house, savings, or shares, a BFA can help you keep it protected. You can avoid a messy split. We've all heard those horror stories about people spending years in court fighting over money, spending tons of money in the process on their lawyers. You want to avoid that, and a prenup can help you skip that drama. And I mean, why would you want to give up control of your finances to a judge or to a bunch of lawyers? By putting a prenup in place, you stay in control. It also protects future money as well. And so maybe you're expecting an inheritance, maybe you're building a business, maybe you're planning to invest together on a property. A prenup can make sure that's kept separate if you want it to be. All right, now you've heard all those positives. Let's be honest, there are some downsides to getting a prenup as well. Firstly, it's not cheap. You both need separate lawyers, and a properly drafted prenup can cost anywhere between $5,000 to $10,000. This might be a financial barrier for a lot of people, particularly when you're both spending that money on lawyers. You might think, hey, this isn't worth the money. I'm not going to proceed with it. I'm going to roll the dice and take my chances. Hopefully, I'm not going to need to spend that $5,000 because we're not going to break up ever. Also, by avoiding doing prenup, it can avoid an awkward conversation, and no one really likes to talk about what happens if they break up. So an option might be just to avoid the conversation altogether. Another negative might be that it's not entirely bulletproof. We have discussed this. They are legally binding, but a court can set it aside if it's found to be unfair, or if a person was pressured into doing something, or if there are potentially a major change that wasn't considered in the agreement, like a birth of a child. And lastly, another point is it doesn't cover the parenting aspect. So if you are thinking about having an agreement that includes the child custody as well, then the BFA isn't going to be able to do it for you. So let me tell you about a real client. Let's call him Ben. Had just finished renovating his house. It was all paid off, a lot of sweat and money in there, and he had just met Sarah, who was absolutely lovely. They were in love, but Ben was very nervous about what would happen to the house if things didn't work out, particularly because Sarah was also moving into the house as well. So Ben came to us and we had some really honest chats, and we worked out a BFA that said the house would stay with Ben, but if Sarah was making contributions towards the house, they would take note of those contributions, and if they did separate, she would be paid back those contributions plus a little bit extra as well. 5 years down the track, unfortunately they did separate. It was sad, but the financial side of things, it was all sorted. There was no fighting, no court. It was a clean break, and both of them walked away saying that the agreement was fair and we would follow what would occur in that agreement. That's what a good prenup does. So at this point, you might be convinced that a prenup is for you, and if you're thinking about it, here's what to do. First thing I would suggest is talk to your partner. An open, honest conversation is going to be the foundation to your discussions before you even speak to a lawyer. If you're both on board with it, then you can take the next step, which is speaking to a family lawyer. I am sorry to say, is inevitable in this country because you need a lawyer to be drafting the agreement and giving you the independent legal advice. Find a lawyer that you feel comfortable with, that is open with you, and is transparent about the costs. The next stage that you'll need in the binding financial agreement is to be transparent about your finances and give full disclosure as to what your financial position is. This works both ways. Normally these documents are swapped so you can kind of verify them to make sure you understand what each other's financial position is. You will then both work with your lawyers to a position where you both think it's fair and you're able to sign the agreement. If there are changes that occur down the line once you have signed the agreement, you can get this agreement updated with your lawyers, and it can include things like inheritances, new properties, or anything that has changed in terms of the general terms. So to wrap it up, should you get a prenup? If you have something to protect, if you're blending families, or if you just want financial clarity with your partner, it's worth thinking about. It doesn't mean you're planning for a breakup. It means you're planning for whatever life throws at you. It's a smart move, and in the long run, it could save you a world of stress. If you're curious about getting a prenup or just want to know what your options are, book in a chat with me and my team. We'll walk you through the whole process. No pressure, no judgment, just honest advice. Like this video if you found it helpful. Drop a comment below if you've got a question, and subscribe for more legal tips made easy. No legal waffle, just straight talk. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.